now 5:02 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5, Section 551.041 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice was given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville would conduct a regular meeting on Tuesday, June 15, 2021 at 5 p.m. via the WebEx teleconference meeting link provided at the City of Brownsville Agenda Center. The notice and meeting agenda are also posted online at the City of Brownsville Agenda Center. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting through WebEx teleconference can join at the numbers provided on the agenda. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Okay, it is now 5:03. Mary, you may call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum.
Good afternoon. Great. We have a quorum, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody.
Okay, our first item is invocation. Pastor Burks, are you present to give the invocation?
Pastor Burke is not here. He did send me a message saying that that there would be another pastor here to do the invocation.
Yes, this is Pastor Robert Diaz.
Hey, Pastor, welcome.
Hello. We'll go ahead and get started with prayer.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we come before you seeking your wisdom and your guidance at this time, Lord God, that you would bless the people of Brownsville, Father God, with decisions, Lord, that honor you, that bless the people, Lord God, as our mayor and the commissioners join together, Lord God. We pray that you would lead them and guide them according to your peace, according to your wisdom, according to righteousness, and that you would be exalted in our great city, Father God, and that their homes would be blessed, Lord God, and they would continue, Father God, in the success that you've given them, Father. We praise you. We love you, Lord. We pray in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Now to give a few moments for everybody to add their own prayers to what Pastor Diaz has already said. All right, thank you. Thank you, Pastor, for being here with us today.
Our next item is proclamations. The first proclamation is proclamation honoring Mariachi Margaritas, an all-female mariachi group from Brownsville, sponsored by Mayor Trey Mendez and Commissioner Nurit Galansky-Pisani.
Thank you, Lord. We're going to have Commissioner Galansky read this one.
Okay.
Okay. This is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, honoring Mariachi Margaritas, an all-female mariachi group. Whereas Mariachi Margaritas was founded in 2009 as an all-female mariachi group by Karina Vela and Abigail Gonzalez, and whereas Mariachi Margaritas, comprised of 11 members, is from the Rio Grande Valley and continues to strive for success and opportunities, reaching beyond their musical talents to embrace culture and bring the diversity and traditions of mariachi music to audiences everywhere. Hence, Mariachi Margaritas, through their musical talents, brings recognition to the city of Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley. Whereas mariachi music is a very traditional Mexican music dating back to the 18th century and normally dominated by male singers and musicians, but Mariachi Margaritas from its inception has had as its mission to showcase women's talent and musical abilities. And whereas the Mariachi Margaritas also make it their mission to teach music to all ages and abilities, with 5 of the group's 11 members are currently music teachers, 2 at Brownsville ISD, at Lopez and Veterans Memorial, 1 at Harlingen Consolidated ISD, and 2 at San Benito Consolidated ISD. In addition, when they are not working their day jobs or performing on weekends, they also have a music school, teaching students how to play different mariachi instruments and giving them voice lessons. And whereas parents of children with special needs are especially grateful to these women for being inclusive and teaching their children an appreciation for music. And whereas on May 8th, 2021, Mariachi Margaritas performed in front of a record 73,126 live spectators at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, for the Canelo versus Saunders boxing fight, as singers Pepe and Angela Aguilar invited these women mariachis to perform with them at the opening of the fight. And whereas Mariachi Margaritas are proud to represent and inspire Latinx women, mariachi women, and elevate women in the mariachi world, it is their goal to give young females with musical talent an opportunity to join Mariachi Margaritas. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, do hereby honor Mariachi Margaritas and urge all citizens to take recognition of this all-female group of musicians and music educators who captivate audiences and inspire all who hear them perform and who give back to their community through music education. Done on this, the 15th day of June 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have anybody here from the Mariachis Margarita?
Hello, hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name's Avi, and we have Yaha, one of our guitar players here. I believe one of our violin players is also logged in. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for this recognition. We are honored, and there is no words to express our gratitude towards the city. And thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging Mariachi Margaritas. It has been a wonderful ride being an all-girl mariachi in our community, in our town, and more than anything, represent our community out there in bigger stages.
Well, thank you so much for being here. You really are an inspiration. This is great. I didn't know a whole lot about y'all. We did have a community member suggest the proclamation, and Commissioner Golonsky helped push that forward, and I was happy to co-sponsor. But now I know a whole lot about y'all, and really proud of everything you're doing, and you're representing us wonderfully as an all-female mariachi, and we're proud to have you represent us on the grand stage for the city of Brownsville. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Anything you would know? Okay. My girls are grateful. We're grateful. A little shy, but not shy to be on stage. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Golonsky, do you want to add anything?
No, thank you to, oh my gosh, I just forgot her last name. The lady who sponsored this.
Williams, I believe it's Williams.
Mrs. Williams, yes.
Williams.
Mrs. Williams.
She spoke really well of y'all because one of you taught her daughter how to play the violin, and because of you, her daughter has developed a great appreciation for music. And stories like that are really inspiring. I'm all about women, so I'm glad that y'all are on the same mission. And no, thank you for representing Brownsville so well. Please continue to do so.
Thank you.
And if Mrs. Williams is here watching, thank you so much for putting this on our radar and recommending the Mariachi Margaritas to us. And thank you all for being here again. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next proclamation is proclamation declaring June 2021 as National Safety Month in the City of Brownsville, multimodal transportation, sponsored by Mayor Trey Mendez.
Thank you very much. This is a proclamation of the Mayor of Brownsville, Texas, declaring the month of June 2021 as National Safety Month in the City of Brownsville. Whereas each year, Americans report more than 48 million injuries that require a visit to an emergency department, totaling over $1 billion in costs. And whereas the goal of the National Safety Council is to raise public awareness and seek opportunities to educate Americans about these alarming and preventable mishaps through education. And whereas through the support and observance of National Safety Month, employers help to reverse the increase in accidental injuries and deaths. And whereas the City of Brownsville supports national safety efforts and has taken a proactive stance in providing a safe and healthy work environment for its employees. And whereas the City of Brownsville and Brownsville Metro has a chief safety officer tasked with reviewing conditions that may contribute to safety events and with improving work safety, reducing losses, and saving lives. And whereas the City of Brownsville works to ensure the safety of all city employees by setting and enforcing standards, providing training, encouraging continual improvement in workplace safety, and helping to establish a culture of safety through people, processes, and technology. Now, therefore, I, Trey Mendez, Mayor of the City of Brownsville, do hereby proclaim June 2021 as National Safety Month throughout the City of Brownsville and encourage all employees and citizens to participate in raising their awareness in the practice of safe and healthy behaviors in all aspects of their lives. Done this 15th day of June 2021. This was a mayoral proclamation because I think it got requested a little bit late, so we got that in as a mayoral proclamation. So thank you very much, and I'm sure the rest of the City Commission would be happy to acknowledge it as well. So thank you.
Mayor, yes, good afternoon. This is Joel Garza, Multimodal Transportation Director. I just wanted to make sure we highlight and introduce our Chief Safety Officer, Mr. Juan Miguel Gonzalez, is now leading this effort. So thank you again for the proclamation.
Well, thank you, Joel. Thank you so much for your work on behalf of the city and for putting this in front of us as National Safety Month. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our third and final proclamation is proclamation declaring June 16th, 2021 as International Domestic Workers Day in the City of Brownsville, sponsored by Commissioner Nuris Golansky-Pasanya and Commissioner John Cowan.
Commissioner Cowan, would you like to read this?
Sure, no problem. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, declaring Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 as International Domestic Workers Day in the City of Brownsville. Whereas an estimated 69 million domestic workers worldwide make a significant contribution to the global economy, but their work continues to be undervalued and invisible despite the light that the COVID-19 pandemic has shown on the importance of their work. And whereas domestic workers who maintain hygienic environments within households have been at the forefront of saving families, one household at a time, but have also been among the workers most affected by the COVID-19 epidemic as they provide essential personal and household care. Domestic workers are any person engaged in domestic work within an employment relationship. Their chores often include cleaning, maintenance tasks, and caring for children, the elderly, the sick, and the differently abled. And whereas lack of recognition as workers and multiple exploitations due to class, gender, race, and their migrant status has exacerbated their vulnerabilities and precariousness and exposed them to the full force of a global health emergency in which they are largely excluded from employment protection, Social Security, and health services. And whereas on June 16, 2011, the International Labor Organization adopted a landmark treaty, the Convention of Decent Work for Domestic Workers, also known as ILO Convention 189, setting out the rights of domestic workers, requiring countries to guarantee domestic workers the same rights as other workers regarding daily and weekly rest periods, working hours, overtime compensation, and adequate protection against violence, which then resulted in June 16th being declared the International Domestic Workers Day. Whereas the ILO will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of Convention 189 by publishing a new report on the situation of the domestic workers worldwide titled Making Decent Work a Reality for Domestic Workers, Progress and Prospects 10 years after the adoption of the Domestic Workers Convention 2011, number 189, which will be launched on June 15, 2021. The report compares the working conditions of domestic workers with those of the wider population, assesses how much work conditions have improved since the adoption of the convention and the impact of COVID-19 on domestic workers. And whereas on this day, the City of Brownsville recognizes all domestic workers and their contributions to our local community, as well as the organizations that are united in working to ensure that domestic workers attain a safe, fair, and protected work environment. For example, Border Workers United and La Alianza Nacional de Trabajadores del Hogar, Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by the virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, do hereby declare Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 as International Domestic Workers' Day in the City of Brownsville, and urge all citizens to take recognition of these domestic workers and each of their contributions to our city and community to ensure that domestic workers obtain the safe, fair, and protected work environment that they deserve, and to support the organizations united to protect them. Done on this, the 15th day of June 2021, the Mayor and the City Commission of the City of Brownsville.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioner Galansky, as well, for co-sponsoring. This is definitely a group that deserves recognition. I believe we have somebody here from that group. Dina, ¿gusta hablar? Is there anybody else here who would like to speak on this?
I would just like to say part of the international domestic workers, I guess, includes home healthcare providers. And now during the pandemic, I have seen how invaluable they really are. Last summer, when my aunt got diagnosed with COVID, thanks to her provider, she was able to care for her. And I mean, we've seen a lot of people come to the forefront because of COVID, and so I think they do deserve the recognition, and hopefully conditions continue to improve, because their work and contributions to our community are definitely invaluable.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, we'll move on to our next item, public comment period. We received one public comment form from Victor DeAnda of 1114 West Tandy of Brownsville. Mr. DeAnda, are you present? Mr. Victor DeAnda, are you present to give your public comment?
I don't see his name on the list of participants, Lori.
Okay, then we can move on to work sessions.
Okay.
Item 1, Republic Services Update, City Manager's Office.
Secretary, please note that I'll be abstaining and stepping away from the meeting at this point.
Okay, duly noted, Commissioner Tetreault.
Do we still have a quorum?
Okay, Commissioner Gowan, are you present?
I don't see her on the participant list either.
Commissioner Neese?
I don't see him either. Lori, Commissioner Tetreault, can you just really quickly, Council, can you let us know whether it's an issue for Commissioner Tetreault to just listen, since this is a just a work session?
This is a work session. It's not something you vote on, so I don't believe that there's a conflict per se. I know Commissioner Tetreault, out of the abundance of caution, normally claims conflicts and steps out whenever items of this nature come up, but I don't believe there's a conflict, and it's non-voting. So if she wishes to remain, I don't believe that would be a conflict at all.
Okay, well, I'll stick around.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Omar Rodriguez, are you ready to present on this item?
Yes, Mayor, Council, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to come on here and kind of give an update again. I know we have been giving weekly updates to the city, but wanted to move forward with something here as well today. So I've put this PowerPoint presentation to kind of start putting the puzzle together of what's going on, where we're at, and the expectation of when we can, when we're going to be getting back to normal. So you'll move on to the next slide. We can start kind of going through it. So right off the bat, when the storm hit, we immediately, shortly after the storm hit, we started putting all our guys to the overtime of 65 hours a week for all our brush drivers. At the beginning, we didn't know exactly how heavy it was going to be or just how bad. We knew that the freeze had done a lot of damage, but we're really sensitive in knowing how bad until the data starts kind of coming in. So again, initially, as we reported on May 4th, we had come in here and said, look, we plan on getting back to schedule by the end of May. During this time, we did bring in some additional emergency management help in May, beginning on May the 10th. Again, all my drivers were working 65 hours, and once the emergency management trucks began to roll in, they were at 72 hours a week. So I had updated city on that, but of course, the delays with some of the freak storms that we had caused some unfortunate delays. And then we had to come back and report to council that we would not be back on schedule until June the 2nd. As of recently, we had to change that and update the city that we would actually now be back to normal by June the 19th. And we're trying to get ahead of schedule if at all possible, but we still feel confident that by the end of this week, we will be back to normal to the schedule we have provided the city. So we'll begin week 4 next week, technically on schedule. Now, I understand there might be some hot spots, little things here, some areas that may have been overseen or missed or whatever, but we will continue to work and get it all picked up. But as of the end of this week, we do intend on being back on schedule. If we can go to the next slide. So the overall trends of the volume being collected will kind of show what happened. And initially in January, when you look at the volume that comes in, the average tonnage is about 1671 in the month of January for this year. And then in February, when the event hit, that tonnage went to 1,465 tons collected. So where things started getting interesting, it was in March. So there was an increase, but really nobody, excuse me, nobody really started cleaning and really cutting brush. A lot of people were holding off. They were holding off to see if the plants were going to come back, if trees were really dead or not. It takes a little bit of time. Excuse me. And so really we don't see that volume increase from February into March drastically. It is high. A 43.3% increase is high, but we'll see how it goes from there. And then in April, the same trend, it went up to 2,207 tons, 2,207 tons collected. Then in May, that's when I think a lot of people realized that, hey, you know what, these plants are dead. And it's not like a hurricane where hurricane comes through and it breaks limbs, branches. You kind of see what it is, collect it, and it's done. This was, everything was pretty much dead. All brush, all bulk, everything was now having to get cleared out. So as the people started clearing it out, you'll see that the volumes really shot up at 2,465 tons. And that's 1,000 more tons. I mean, 68.3% increase to what is considered normal. And if you look at June week 1 number tonnage, again, we can only get the tonnage once it's collected. So we do have week 1, which is 758 tons. The potential for this month in June is 3,282 tons of brush collected. That is an extremely high amount of volume of brush to be clearing up. We have been working around the clock. I mean, it has been every single day going at it. As you look at here, you'll see kind of the graph of where it's trending. Now, again, to look at normal, you actually have to go back to a normal year, which is 2019, where there was no hurricane, no COVID. Because in last year with COVID and the hurricane, yes, you'll see that increase in the brush because of those events. People were at home, more cutting was taking place. But a normal year was 2019. So on average, we would be collecting about 1,803 tons. So if you look at the 3-month average in tonnage for 2019, it's 1,803. You look at 2020 with COVID and a hurricane, it's 1,859, slightly increased. But when you look at 2021, those 3 months alone is 2,258 tons above average. So every month we were adding, so many more extra pickups, if you would, or what we equate to 140 extra truckloads compared to 2019. In other words, every month, and again, just an average, it's a little higher than that, but going with this number, 140 more truckloads every single month, compiling month over month. So that kind of gives you an idea of just how heavy, and one of the reasons for why we got behind on it. But we did bring in the extra help, and we did move forward as quickly as we could. I understand that people were frustrated. I understand that things were heated up, but please understand that the volume that we're seeing is worse than a hurricane. I mean, this is across the board. Another thing that made it very challenging is that it wasn't so easy immediately to just bring in help. The whole state went through this. So whereas before, like if you have a hurricane, it hits more of a dedicated area, you'll have multiple contractors you can call. But because the whole state went through this, the majority of those contractors were really already booked up with work across the state. So just finding what we could find, we were grateful for it, and we brought it in directly. So if we can move on to the next slide, that kind of gives you at least an idea. Again, we are scheduled to be back to schedule by the end of this week. We're going to get started early on section 1. That's our intention right now. That's our goal, which is considered a free week. There's nothing scheduled on the schedule for June 28th or July the 2nd. That's technically what we consider a free week. So what we're going to do is take advantage of that. It doesn't belong to a sector or a section, if you will, for Brownsville, but we're going to go into section 1 and start servicing that area. And then we will again run the normal section 1, which is scheduled for July the 5th through the 9th. So our goal is to get ahead, try and lighten the load of wherever it's at. And this way, when we get in there on the actual 5th through the 9th, we should be able to breeze through it a little bit easier. We do intend on keeping the emergency management trucks in place. That's not going to go anywhere until we start seeing that things really begin to normalize again, going back to that number that we're trying to see in the 1800s, 1700s, tonnage-wise. And then, of course, our guys, the actual Republic Service employees will continue to at the 65 hours a week and continue to operate it in that manner until we again start seeing things lighten up and normalize. But, you know, publicly, I'd like to say, you know, just a thank you for you know, those that were patient. I know a lot of people have been frustrated and whatnot, but please understand that we have been working extremely hard in trying to keep these guys going every single day at that kind of hour, 65-hour a work week rate, and keeping them safe and the public safe. That is priority. And so we're trying to do all these things all at the same time. Unfortunately, weather didn't always cooperate with us during these times where we're trying to get caught up, and it's just been an interesting challenge, but we've learned from it. We can only get better from here. And honestly, in our industry, we've done a heck of a job in trying to get the city of Brownsville back to normal. And so I just want to again update the city on where we stand, what we've gone through, where we're at, and what you can expect. And again, you know, our intention is to go back to normal and stay there. So that's what I want to report tonight. If there's any questions, any concerns, I mean, we can try and answer them as well.
Mr. Rodriguez, we hear almost daily from those people that haven't had their services or haven't had the brush picked up. I've seen some neighborhoods where it's been a while. I know that you're trying to catch up, but are you tracking the households that haven't had service for let's say a month or 2 months? And do you plan to issue any sort of credit for those who didn't get serviced for at least a month or more?
Well, at the moment, we haven't discussed anything about credits or anything like that. Our goal was to pick up everything. So if I miss somebody, I will intend on making them whole by picking up everything. We haven't been limiting anything. We've been basically picking up everything that's out there. What we have noticed on some areas is we'll pick up, but they immediately set out again. Residents will set out more brush. And so, you know, if I pass through an area, clean it up, and they set out again, you know, we've done our part to clean that area up. It's gonna be out there for another month. So, you know, I think caution should be taken on how often they're gonna put it out, or just to be careful on that. Now, again, our goal is to make everybody whole on service. So if in fact we did miss somebody and there's 2 months worth of brush or bulk, whatever is out there, we're gonna get it all cleaned up. I know a lot of calls have been coming in to the call center, and we'll get some that are a little bit bland, if you will, but it helps to have more specific addresses so I can go out there and directly see those piles. Where if you tell me, hey, it's this general area, you know, I have my guy driving around everywhere. If it's, hey, this is the address, then that helps pinpoint the brush pile. It makes it easier for us to find it and get it cleaned up. But yes, that's kind of where we're at. It's a matter of making everybody whole by picking up everything that's out there, and that's what we intend on doing at the moment.
Okay, well, I'm sure Mr. Bernal forwards you a lot of the requests I get and some of the complaints that I get. I'm sure he does the same with the other commissioners.
Yes.
So there's several people that have had that have stated, at least to me, that they haven't had service for a long time. And I see it myself. For example, I mean, I drive down Palm Boulevard, let's say, every day. I've seen piles of brush that have been there for well over a month, if not more. So that's why I was asking that question, because we are getting those questions. So I felt this is the best forum to ask you that question, so you can know that people are asking that.
Correct. Yes, I understand. And again, I think what we have to do there is just work with the city and the call center and just get more pinpoint accuracy of those areas, and we'll go in there and get them all cleaned up completely. And if it's 2 months worth, it's 2 months worth. If it's a month's worth, it is what it is. We're going to pick it all up and make it whole.
We have any other comments or concerns from the commission? Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next workshop item is traffic signal synchronization project update, engineering and public works department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Dor Garcia. I'm with the engineering department. Today I will be providing an update of our traffic synchronization project. This project was initiated in early 2019 when we were allocated $1.5 million for traffic management improvements. This was actually funded in fiscal year of 2020. The traffic signal master plan was completed in March of 2020 in the amount of $495,300. With the completion of this study, we identified an estimated implementation cost of $4.5 million, which was composed of two major components, signal equipment and corridor timing improvement plan. In the following slides, I'll go over what we have completed with the current funding and the gaps in funding needed to complete this project and our master plan that was prepared. We can go to the next slide. The first section of it consisted of the replacement of hardware, and then the second phase was replacement of vehicle detection system. Right now, I'm going to be going over the hardware portion. About the beginning of 2020, we began updating our hardware system. We've replaced 105 controllers throughout the city, and without 46 of those were placed along corridors that needed timing improvements. Basically, what was the reason for this was that a lot of
All right, looks like we lost Dodo. Let's give him a chance here to reconnect. Is there anybody else that was going to present on this, or just Dodo?
He had asked if he could do it virtually. Let's move on, go to the next one. We will come back to it.
Okay, Mayor, he wants to, Mr. Bernal said move on to the next item and we can come back to it. Our next item is presentation of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association Incorporated Municipal Clerk's Office Achievement of Excellence Award to the City of Brownsville, Office of the City Secretary by Amy Niemer, TRMC, TMCA President, and City Secretary, City of Richardson. and I believe Mr. Hammer has joined us virtually.
Good evening, Mayor Mendez, City Commissioners, and City Manager Bernal. My name is Amy Niemer, and I am the City Secretary for the City of Richardson. I am also the President of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association, TMCA. I am very honored to join you tonight for a special presentation to City Secretary Lori Morgan and her staff. In 2019, TMCA established the Office Achievement of Excellence Award. The award program recognizes the statutory requirements and demands for the effective and efficient management of resources for proper governance by the Municipal Clerk's Office. The award is open to all offices of Texas registered municipal clerks and the municipality they represent. The award covers a period of 2 years. This award recognizes municipal clerk offices throughout the state for compliance with federal, state, and local statutes that govern standards necessary to fulfill the duties and responsibilities of the office. A municipal clerk's office must have met 9 of the 12 standards to be eligible for the Excellence Award. The 12 standards are records management, professional development and certifications, government transparency, elections administration, awards and recognitions of the office, the Texas Public Information Act, the Texas Open Meetings Act, boards and commissions administration, office policies and procedures, innovative projects, departmental training, and other areas of responsibility, such as vital statistics, municipal court, or finance. The title City Secretary does not adequately convey the sophistication and expertise required of the profession. In order to lead this office well, one must be in constant learning mode to keep up with the changing demands placed on local government. The position is a vital part of effective government. TMCA represents members from over 600 cities in Texas. The Brownsville City Secretary's office is one of 43 cities to receive the Office Achievement of Excellence Award, and they met all 12 standards. Mayor Mendez, City Commissioners, and Manager Bernal, I commend you for supporting Ms. Morgan and the Office of the City Secretary. On behalf of the TMCA Executive Board and over 1,000 members of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association, it is my distinct honor to award the Municipal Clerk's Office Achievement of Excellence Award to the City of Brownsville and to City Secretary Lori Morgan and her staff. Please join me in congratulating Secretary Morgan and her staff on this accomplishment.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just want to thank President Niemer for taking her time out of being not only the president of TMCA, but also a city secretary of her city to join us to present this award virtually. And I want to thank my staff. They have been great. All of my staff members, Griselda Rosas, Yolanda Galarza Gomez, Johnny Gutierrez, Mary Saldana, and R.C. Battles. And I want to thank Mr. Bernal and Ms. Walker and all of the city staff and city management and the commission for the support you've given us and the encouragement. And I'm just very proud and happy to receive the award.
Excellent work for the department, everybody, staff. You all did a great job through helping us through COVID, and this recognition is just a bonus. So thank you for being here. And does anybody else have anything? Noel?
Sure, Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I think we want to thank you all. The body of work of the municipal clerk, as mentioned by President Niemer, is very complex. It is sophisticated in its own right. I would add that the role of a municipal clerk is actually older than that of a city manager. It goes back to biblical times. So that's a little statistic for you that before we existed, they existed, and they have been as instrumental to cities as we were at one point when our turn came to add to the complexity of cities as they became more sophisticated and urbanized and things like that. So they actually have a tremendous role within any organization. I just want to commend them for their dedication to excellence, hard work, all the preparation. Today, in one of the items later on in the agenda, there's actually an item that our enterprise applications department will present, but there's a lot of work that they have done with them to use innovative techniques to help us with records management, using technology and other innovative applications. So their work will actually get highlighted during this meeting. So I just want to commend them for keeping that focus on getting better and serving our community better. Thank you, Lori. Let me take that.
No, we gotta just figure out where to hang it now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, it looks like Dora joined us. So do you want to go back to his presentation?
Absolutely. Dora, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, we had a little brownout here.
That's
I'm
okay.
back on my phone and on the computer, so either way I'll be able to continue. So we left off on the replacement of hardware, which is we completed 105 controllers. Out of these, 46 of them were placed along corridors that needed timing improvements. This was completed in July of 2020, and we spent about $346,500 in this improvement. And what this helps us is be a little bit more robust for our implementation of timings, and we won't lose timings with little blackouts like the one I just had. This will help us contain the timing and be able to update our signals a lot more efficient and effectively. If we can go to the next slide. On the next slide, for these timing signals to work on their own, we have something what we call loops. The loops that we had in the city, most of them are good for about 2 years, and it was a constant hassle of having to replace these. So we went with a different option, what they call pods. These pods are small, like hockey puck-like items that are placed in the pavement, and what these do is they provide traffic information to help these timing controllers adjust and increase timings as needed depending on the flow of traffic. We've completed the installation of 215 pods on 8 intersections on 802 from the frontage all the way to Dana Road. Once the 802 construction project from TxDOT is complete, hopefully we'll be able to see some of those improvements. We also did the intersection of Central Boulevard right off the expressway on 802. This was completed in April of 2021, and we spent $195,386. As part of our CIP plan and our budget gap, we're programming from 2022 to 2024 to continue this installation and complete 47 other intersections. And these intersections would be obviously major corridors like Boca Chica, International, Price Road, to name a couple of them. And we're estimating $750,000 to complete these remaining projects. If we can go to the next slide, please. The next component consisted of the corridor timing improvements, which was the installation of radio communication and fiber. For this particular project, if we can go to the next slide. The fiber projects that we have been working on in conjunction with Brownsville PUB to improve our fiber infrastructure, not only for our needs, but for the needs of Brownsville PUB and including the city's broadband project. So we have been working hand in hand. As you all know, fiber is not something that's relatively cheap. So we have worked within our means currently to deploy as much fiber as we had affordable, and also using radios. And these radios will help our controllers communicate so that the signal from one intersection to the other intersection basically are communicating with each other so that, we can have continuous green lights, at least for a shortened period of time, to help improve the traffic flow. If we can go to the next slide. On this slide, you can see the price difference really from the radios. To install 10 radios, we spent $12,600, and this covers basically our major corridors where we feel that we need to have at least something temporarily while we get our fiber project complete. On Boca Chica, we're currently doing the installation of fiber, and we're looking to spend close to $200,000, and that should be complete by the end of August, pretty much in line with the construction of a Boca Chica medium project. With PUB, our estimated budget for the next 2 years is roughly $1 million, so that we can bring online the major corridors that'll help us improve the remaining signals to something that's a little bit more robust than radio. On radio, we tend to have some failures and communication interference now and then. So the idea is to go with fiber at the end of the day. If we can go to the next slide. Currently, the phase that we're in right now is the implementation of the signal timing. And what this does is basically maintain fluid flow throughout our corridors. We're going to be working with Boca Chica Boulevard since it's currently under construction, and we have most of our infrastructure in place to complete that corridor. I know we've had many complaints about the ongoing traffic issues at Boca Chica Boulevard, so we're hoping that once we begin this timing improvements and synchronization, it'll help alleviate the traffic flow along Boca Chica, and we'll also be doing Central Boulevard. As part of our program for the remaining years in 2022 and 2024 capital improvement projects, we're looking about $1.25 million to complete Price Road, International, FM 802, and Alton Glore Boulevard, which are most of our major corridors here in the city. We can go to the next slide. Our final component is the Traffic Management Center. And at the end, you can see here, Innovative Idea Exploration, i.e. Smart City. That's kind of our second phase to the small component. Currently, since we don't have we're going to occupy our existing engineering building. As you all know, it's a pretty small building, but we've made some room to set up a control center. What this does is it'll allow us to control any signal improvements. Anytime that signal goes down, instead of waiting for a phone call, we'll get pretty much an update on the spot, and we'll be able to address the signal remotely from our office to be able to update and bring the signals back online as quickly and efficiently as possible. And the idea is that by through our 2022-24 CIP project, we will expand our management center and explore innovative ideas. By exploring innovative ideas, it's basically the use of cameras, the use of smart technology to help improve our traffic system. Obviously, these improvements are a little bit more costly, and we're budgeting $750,000 for these improvements in the future. At this time, this concludes my presentation. I'll open the floor for any questions that you all may have.
Dodo, the cost that you have on there, obviously we know that the city has a broadband plan in place, and we kind of have some estimated costs on there. Are you taking that into consideration when you're showing the costs, or are those costs part of that? Do you know?
For the fiber, these are costs that we would bear directly, because for a certain segment, they may not be part of the broadband or PUB's plan. These are items that we would have to incur.
Okay, so this is independent of whatever cost the broadband fiber may be.
Correct, but we are working in conjunction with them. Okay, great. And so far, how do you see the difference, or have you seen a difference in the parts that we've already done? I think the real difference is going to happen probably towards the end of this year on Boca Chica. That's what we're banking on, because that will be the first corridor that has everything fully implemented. On the other corridors, the one advantage that we do have is, having to spend time when we have blackouts or power outages, random peaks of spikes in electricity that throw off our timing. We don't have to go back and manually do that. It's already pre-programmed. We just pretty much click a button and get that back up. So that's been very beneficial to our staff, at least for bringing signals back up right now.
Dodo, does the fiber give you any kind of insight into the pedestrian crossway lights, in other words, or is it just signals? In other words, does it tell you if a pedestrian cross light is not working or is misfiring?
The project in and of itself, the new programmers, controllers that we have, those will give us that information that you're talking to. The fiber, simply what it does, it gives us the communication between signals. That's what the fiber does for us. It gives us the communication between signals, and obviously the communication back to our home office a lot more effective and efficient.
Hey, Doro, how are you going to measure the effectiveness once these improvements are done?
A lot of it is going to be done through our master plan. Part of our master plan component, when we talk about the smart cities, we use Google technology for a lot of the timings or travel times that it takes people to get from one place to another. So all that data we currently have. So once we do these timings, we'll be able to compare, the new timings that are published by these entities and compare them to our previous timings to see how significant the improvements were. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we can move on to consent agenda items 1 through 12.
I'd like to pull number 11 from consent agenda, and I'd look for a motion to approve all the other items.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. On item number 11, when I was looking through the packet, I did notice that this is for $68,841, but it looks like there's $48,000 of that $68,000 that's being spent on billboards in Laredo. So I just kind of wanted to understand what the justification for that is, why that money's being spent over there, and kind of the rationale for what kind of return we're going to get, or what the thought is on that.
Thank you, Mayor Mendez. So the billboards for Visit Brownsville, we're targeting Port Isabel and Laredo for tourism. The idea behind the Laredo ads through Lamar is because we're also utilizing digital billboards in other of our drive market areas. These digital billboards are currently not available in the Laredo market. However, it was something that we felt it was essential in providing the in enhancing our drive market marketing. So both of these billboards are along the I-35 main artery, which is essential for Mexican travel into the Laredo market. We wanted to promote Brownsville in this area, which also leverages the Monterrey, Saltillo, and Querétaro area. Laredo sees approximately 15 million visitors from the southern border just through those bridges. And so it's a great opportunity for us to promote Brownsville as a space tourism destination, active tourism destination, as well as our museums and zoo. These two billboards get approximately 22 million impressions a year. And so our cost per impression is just over 1 cent for each ad.
Okay, do we have any sort of idea? I mean, impressions is one thing, but do we have any sort of idea how many of these people are actually coming to visit Brownsville as a result of this? And who's the target? Is it Mexico?
It's both. We do not have a conversion measure for billboards. It's not something that's commonly used. There are some formulas out there, but it's not something that we have to present to you all today. Like I said, we are targeting both Laredo visitors and the Mexican visitors that are visiting Laredo already. The demographics in Laredo are basically the market that we're trying to target. Their average age is just shy of 29. They have average income in the $40,000 range, so that gives them some expendable income, but they're also looking for a lower price range for travel. And so it's an easy drive market for them to visit Brownsville and also visit all of our attractions that we have to offer.
I know that typically, like CVB, maybe, I'm not sure if you do this or not, Monica, but do you kind of track where our visitors are coming from? Do you know when people are spending money, do you know where they're coming from and spending money, let's say at malls or restaurants or anything like that? Do you track that?
We are not currently tracking it. We're building that infrastructure right now. So we've purchased a software called Duengo that allows us to see where people are coming from. That's also a part of our hot application process, is asking each one of our recipients where their visitors are coming from. But because we do not actively sell to our visitors, we don't track that data. Eventually we will be, as we do set up other infrastructure within the CVB, but the other metrics that we can use are our Facebook and website social media impressions. But again, that doesn't exactly tell us conversions just yet. But like I said, we are building to get that information.
Okay, and besides Port Isabel and Laredo, what other cities do we have billboards in?
We are currently advertising in San Antonio, Corpus, Houston, Austin, and Dallas area. Those are just with different agencies. We use digital billboards in those markets, and that is just honestly a little bit more convenient, a little bit cheaper, but like I said, it's not available in the Laredo market just yet.
Okay,
We also
thanks.
market up the valley in McAllen using digital billboards.
So basically digital billboards sound a lot cheaper, right? Just because they're rotating?
Yeah, so they're rotating, so your impressions are going to be lower, but you have more ability to pivot what you're advertising, and it is a little bit lower cost. So we do have the dedicated billboards here in Port Isabel and Laredo, so we get higher impressions, but higher cost.
On these ads, are they in Spanish in Laredo?
We have one in English and one in Spanish.
Cool. I just have trouble justifying the cost that the majority of this is in Laredo. See, it's pretty far. And I personally don't know of anybody from Laredo that's coming down here. It's a little bit of a drive and there's quite a few cities in between. So I just don't know. Personally, I'm not sure how we justify the cost, especially if you don't have any data to show how many people are actually coming or spending money from Laredo.
Mayor, this is Felipe Romero, Director of Communications. If I may add again, we're strategically focus on a drive market. We are using digital ads in major cities. Specifically, we want to promote. We know that Laredo is the gateway city and it's a major artery to the I-35 corridor. And we are looking again also to promote once our bridges reopen in the Mexican Nationals and really putting the city of Brownsville at the best foot forward in terms of promoting the infrastructure and tourism that we already have, not only with our parks, but also having the nearest launching site closest to the region that the next one would be in Florida. So we are working on being able to track and pinpoint the traffic that we get from specific areas. We can tie the analytics in terms of the visits from where we're getting this is where the cookies come in, where you're getting traffic to the website by the location in the cities.
Since we're targeting the Mexican audience, what cities in Mexico do we have ads in?
We still haven't launched that yet, sir. We're waiting for more as we start reopening and getting the bridges open. We'll really start being more strategic in terms of putting ads, in particular in the northern region of Mexico, sir.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd probably be better use of resources than Laredo personally. But again, I'm just one. Thanks, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is an action item. Do we have any motions on this?
Motion to, excuse me, motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'm going to vote nay on this, just based on what I said, and nothing personal, obviously, with the department, but I just can't justify the expense for Laredo. But I do believe we had 5, so motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to public hearings. Item 1, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 2021-1686 to annex into the city of Brownsville boundary limits a property described as being 12.34 acres out of a 24-acre tract of land, also known as Tract 8A, of an unrecorded subdivision, more or less, out of a 3,030.42 acre tract of land of the Noriega Plantation in Share 1 and Share 17, Espiritu Santo Grant, described in deed dated October 30th, 1985, executed by United Savings Association of Texas to Teofilo Flores Jr. and Catarina Flores, recorded in volume 11, page 439, Official Records, Cameron County, Texas, Planning and Redevelopment Department.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. So just as very similar situation as in the previous meeting, this is a voluntary annexation. It's a petition to annex 12.34 acres into City of Brownsville city limits. This will be site, and has actually been approved already by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It will be site to a single-family residential development. Part of this subdivision already lies within the city of Brownsville. They're just wanting to add those 12 additional acres into city limits. The subdivision will consist of 123 lots, and they're already working on installing infrastructure. And it is fronting US Highway 281. Next slide. So this is just an aerial view of the property that's being annexed. It's directly north of Veterans High School, and the portion that is, or the property that it's part of, is directly abutting also this school directly to the west. And so all that portion will be developed into a single family subdivision. Next slide. And this is just a photo of the plat. Next slide. So staff does recommend approval to annex the 12.34 acres into the city of Brownsville limits.
Martin, what was the, how many letters went out on this, and what was there, I didn't see that there was any objections, but do we know how many went out?
Yes, it was approximately, it was five letters.
5, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't see that information on the packet, so I saw the objections, but I didn't see how many letters went out. Can you guys put that in the packet going forward, please?
Yes, noted.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here on this item? All right. Hearing nobody, do we have a motion to close public hearing?
Motion to close.
We have a motion to close in a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Do we have a motion on the item?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, Public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2021-006 to amend the zoning map from residential single-family district R1 to residential transition R3 for a 0.534 acre tract of land, more or less, out of Block 29 of the Medea Luna subdivision in Share 22 of the Espiritu Santo Grant in Cameron County, Texas, located at 2925 Westlaco Road, Brownsville, Texas 78520, as shown in Exhibit A, District 4, Planning and Redevelopment Department.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. This is Alan Garces speaking. So the applicant is requesting to change the zone from R1 Single Family Residential District to R3 Residential Transition District. The proposed use for the property is multifamily, and as Ms. Morgan just mentioned, it is located along Westlaco Road, specifically 2925 Westlaco Road. Next slide, please. Here we have an aerial view of the property. As you can see, there is some sort of transition from Interstate 69 that goes from commercial to some sort of a transition to lighter commercial, and eventually you do see some multifamily uses just north of Ruben M. Torres, and ultimately moves down to single family use as well. Next slide, please. Here's the zoning map, specifically highlighting the subject property. As I mentioned, there is a transition from RC Regional Center to corridor commercial, a lighter commercial use. And ultimately, as you can see, there are some R3 districts that was approved by City Commission and the area dating from 2004 to the last one, just north of Ruben M. Torres, on Dulce in 2016. So as I mentioned, the transition from the highway goes from regional center to corridor commercial to some multifamily and ultimately R1 single family district. Next slide. Here we have the mail out public notice. We did send out 26 mail outs. We did not receive any written opposition. There was no opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. However, we did receive a phone call this morning asking for the link to this meeting. And I believe there might be someone here in opposition, but I can't confirm that. Next slide, please. Here we have a preliminary sketch created by the applicant, just an idea of what is being proposed or what might be proposed on site. Keep in mind, this is preliminary and they will have to go through the building permit process and the site plan review process, and they have to meet all UDC requirements prior to building permit issuance. Next slide, please. The request is consistent with the comp plan and the future land use plan. Plan and zoning did recommend approval from R1 single family district to R3 residential transition district. I'm available for any questions. The applicant is also available at this meeting.
Thanks, Alan. Does anybody from the commission have any questions for Mr. Garces? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here on this item? Okay. I saw in the packet though, Alan, that there was not any objections. Is that correct?
Correct. We didn't receive any objections, no written objections, and the phone call just wanted information on the meeting link. So we provided that information, but we didn't receive any opposition.
And how many letters went out on this?
26.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty dense, or it's a little bit denser here than other places. So yeah, it looks like there's quite a few people out there. All right.
Right.
This is a public hearing. We didn't see anybody who wanted to speak on this. So do we have a motion to close?
Can I ask you a question though? The lot that's north of there, is that a single family or is it multi-family?
I'm sorry, I was not able to hear your question.
The lot that's north of there, is it single family or is it multi-family? The one on the corner of Westlaco and Gilson.
It's zoned currently as R1 single family district.
Okay, because it is developed, at least from the aerial, right? And so it's a single family home?
see.
Am I
It is
correct?
developed, and I can confirm that in just a second. But I will say that, as I mentioned in the presentation, that the applicant will still have to go through the site plan review process, and will they have to respect any setbacks and any other requirements such as residential adjacency standards set forth in the UDC.
Okay, but then if all around there is single family and they decide that they want to do multifamily, they're still, even if they get the rezoning, they might still be obligated to just do single family if the, say, for example, all the residents around oppose it?
Well, we didn't receive any opposition, and then the R3 district does allow for single family, it allows for a duplex, and it also allows for 3. So what R3 says is you can have 3 or more. However, there are density requirements as well.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to close public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. Do we have a motion on the item?
I'll move to approve the rezoning request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item 3, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2021-007 to amend the zoning map from residential suburban R2 to residential transition R3 for block 31, lot 31, block 1, Portway Acres subdivision, section 1, Cameron County, Texas, located at 25 Xena Drive, Brownsville, Texas, 78521, as shown in Exhibit A, District 2, Planning and Redevelopment Department.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. So this is similar to our previous case. The applicant is also requesting to go to residential transition R3 district. However, the current zoning is residential suburban R2 district. The proposed use is for multifamily as well, and the property is along 25 Xena Drive. Next slide, please. So here we have an aerial view of the property. The property is south of 14th Street. As you can see there in the aerial, it does have different types of uses as far as residential goes. You have commercial on the frontage along 14th Street, but as you get further south along Xena, you do see some duplexes, you see some residential, and as a matter of fact, you also see some multifamily in the area. On Stevens, on Calvin, Portway as well, and like I mentioned, on Xenia. Next slide, please. So here we have the zoning map of the subject property. As I mentioned, there's a commercial corridor along 14th Street. For the majority, the area there is zoned R2 district, which allows single family and also allows a duplex. But there are some highlighted properties there. If you can see, I know the color might be a little bit tricky, but north of Portway, along Xenia and Stevens, those are apartment uses that were approved by City Commission 2005, 2012, and the last one, as I mentioned last time too, the last one actually is 2016 as well. So there has been a development trend to go from duplex to multifamily in that area, and those are some of the more recent development trends just in that area there. Next slide, please. In this particular case, we did send out 24 mailouts, a public notice. That's the 200-foot buffer. There was no written opposition. We actually did not get any phone calls on this case, and staff did not receive any type of opposition, written or phone calls, as I just mentioned. Next slide, please. The request is consistent with the surrounding uses. It's consistent with the comp plan and the development trend in the area. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval to rezone from residential suburban R2 district to residential transition R3 district. I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is also available.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here on this item? Okay. We have a motion to close?
I'll move to close.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Motion passes. Do we have any motions on the item?
I'll move to
approve the request for the rezoning.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Commissioners. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Item 4, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2021-901 to amend the zoning map for 3 tracts of land as follows. From agricultural district AG to residential single-family district R1 for a tract of land being an approximately 149.88 acres. From agricultural district AG to residential transition district R3 for a tract of land being an approximate 8.16 acres. From agricultural district AG to commercial corridor district CC for a tract of land being an approximate 160.66 acres. All out of 1,330.35 acres of land comprised of 2 tracts. Tract 1 being 1,222.12 acres out of a 1,282.657 acre tract being out of Share 1 Espiritu Santo grant. Tract 2 being a 108.45 acre tract known as El Triangulo being out of Share 1 Espiritu Santo grant, Cameron County, Texas, located near the intersection of North Interstate 69 and Highway 100, Los Fresnos, Texas, 78566, as shown in Exhibit A, District 3, Planning and Redevelopment Department.
Hello again, Mayor, Commissioners. Can we move on to the next slide? So this is a request to rezone 3 tracts of land, which together are 318.79 acres. This is for the property that's part of Church number 4. The reason why it's split into 3 tracts is it was based on what the development is going to be sectioned as for single-family residential, multifamily residential, and also commercial. So it's split into the different acreage that it's going to be used for. So as mentioned, 149 acres will be used for single-family use. 8.16 acres will be used for multifamily residential. And then finally, 160.66 acres will be used for commercial. So this property is fronting North Interstate 69 and Highway 100. Next slide. This is an aerial view of the property, and it's split to its corresponding approximate acreage. Next slide. This is a zoning map. The predominant zoning is agricultural district, and to the north there's ETJ, and to the south there is also some regional center zone. Next slide. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 5 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Next slide. So the request is consistent with the comp plan and future land use plan. P&Z did recommend approval to rezone the 318.79 acres into the corresponding categories of single-family district, residential transition, and commercial corridor. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this item? All right, do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Do we have a motion on the item?
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'm an I, but I couldn't unmute fast enough.
All right, thanks, Commissioner.
Mhm.
No opposition, motion passes. Thank you.
Item 5, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2021-902 to amend the zoning map from agricultural district AG to residential single-family district R1 for a tract of land being 27.18 acres out of Share 14, Espiritu Santo Grant, Cameron County, Texas, located near Summerhill Boulevard, Brownsville, Texas, 78520, as shown in Exhibit A, District 4, Planning and Redevelopment Department.
So this is a city-initiated case. Again, this one is also linked to a recently annexed property that was annexed into the city limits. It is a residential development. It's part of Summer Lake subdivision, I'm sorry, which will be developed into a single-family residential development. Whenever a property is annexed into the city, it automatically comes in as agricultural district. They do need the residential R1 in order to accommodate their subdivision design. Next slide. This is the aerial view of the property. To the north is Summerhill subdivision. This is a zoning map. Next slide. To the east, there's agricultural district. There's also R1, and there's also the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Next slide. This is a 200 buffer map. There were 2 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Next slide. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. P&Z did recommend the approval to rezone from agricultural district to residential single-family district. Any questions?
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
We have a motion to close. Is there a motion and a second? Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Do we have any motions on the item?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Items for individual consideration. Item 1, consideration and action to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Brownsville and the Housing Authority of the City of Brownsville regarding a joint application for a Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant, City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. Marina Solesi with the City Manager's Office. And this evening, joining us is Ms. Carla Mancha. She is the Chief Executive Officer for the Housing Authority for the City of Brownsville. Tonight, we present to you, an MOU between the City of Brownsville and HECB regarding a joint application for a Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant for fiscal year 2021. And what this does, this is a 2-year planning grant that assists our communities in developing neighborhood transformation plans. More specifically, it's focused on people, housing, and neighborhoods. And this is for, as far as the NOFO, it's released on May 13th. We have the application deadline of July 13th. And we met with Housing Authority to discuss this and the submittal. And as you recall, we did go before you back in August 2020 for the submittal of a Choice Neighborhood application grant for the fiscal year 2020. And we're applying for the same area, which is the international southmost area, to include the Victoria Gardens housing development. One of the requirements is to include in the footprint, housing development needs to be included in the housing footprint. Last year, we were just shy of 1 point of being selected as one of 10 choice neighborhoods for this area. So since then, we've been strategizing and we received debriefing from HUD in regards to our application. And so we're excited to come back here before you for your support. I am going to ask Ms. Carla Mancha for her to share one of the previous successful applications.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Mendez and City Commission, and thank you for allowing us to present this item this evening. As Marina stated, we came to you back in August of 2020 for the application for the 2020 round, and we did fall short only 1 point. We've had the opportunity to have a debriefing with HUD that took place in February, and have identified the areas of opportunity where we can improve our application. We are confident that we will be able to address that and maximize those conversations that we had with HUD and the work that we've done with our partners to submit a successful application. So as everyone knows, back in 2015, the Housing Authority in the City of Brownsville submitted an application to HUD for a planning grant for the Buena Vida Choice neighborhood project. We were awarded in June 27th of 2016, and it was a 2-year process, which we completed in year 2018. From that programming, that project, we were able to engage not only the Housing Authority families, but the community of Buena Vida, and to create place-based programs and opportunities for the families that reside in the neighborhood, and it was very successful. Housing Strategy 1 for the Buena Vida Choice Neighborhood Plan is Poinsettia Gardens, and as everyone knows, Poinsettia Gardens opened up early this year. So this is a testament of how this type of program, the Choice Neighborhood Program, can aid, assist, and grow resilient communities. So just really quickly on what the difference is this time around versus last time around. So last time HECB was the lead. This time we both agreed that HECB should be the co and the city should be the lead. And the Housing Authority is right now conducting a physical conditions assessment for Victoria Gardens. As Marina stated, in order to qualify, there needs to be a public housing development within the footprint of the proposed project. I will state that this will be our last opportunity to apply for the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant because it is the Housing Authority's intention to transition from public housing to a RAD project to assist the families who currently reside at Victoria Gardens. And once it transitions to a RAD programming assistance, we will no longer qualify to submit a Choice Neighborhood grant. So this will be our last chance. Also, as Marina has on her slide here, there is a requirement of a 5% leverage commitment, and the City of Brownsville and the Brownsville Housing Opportunity Corporation, which is one of our nonprofits, will be working together to identify that required amount in order to assure that we meet and we receive the maximum points for leveraging, like we did at the last application. So thank you so much for your time this evening, and I'd like to also personally thank Commissioner Galansky, because she has been very involved in all of our meetings, not only for the first application round, but also for our second application, this second time around. We meet every Monday, and I want to thank you, Commissioner Galansky, for always being engaged and providing your leadership throughout the process of these meetings.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for your support, Commission. And just one last item, will go before you as well in July for a choice neighborhood planning coordinator, which is part of a requirement when awarded, and that would be funded through the choice neighborhood planning grant.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Do you have any motions on the item?
I'll move to approve. I'm hoping that the second time is the charm. So.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, consideration and action accepting grant number 3-4A-0031-51-2021 in the amount of $1,786,333 for the reimbursement of 2 passenger boarding bridges from the Federal Aviation Administration for the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport Department.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. Before I get started, I'd like to go ahead and show you a few renderings of the passenger boarding bridges after they would be completely installed. During the terminal project, obviously we ordered 4 bridges. We do have 4 bridges already on site. Go next slide. And we're just basically waiting for the ramp project to be completed until, or at which time we can get the installers in to install the bridges. Next slide. During the financial aspect, during our CIP program, we coordinated with the FAA to do a reimbursement through approximately 3 years to reimburse for the acquisition of the 4 bridges in the total of about $3 million. Go next slide, please. So this is the first grant through our entitlement money for the acquisition of two bridges. Next slide, please. Thanks. For 2 bridges. So the airport is requesting acceptance of the grant in the amount of $1,786,333 for the reimbursement of 2 passenger boarding bridges, again, that were required during the terminal project.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Wasn't sure.
Oh, no, we're waiting for acceptance of the grant.
All right. Do we have any motions on this?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, consideration and action to award the purchase and delivery of 2 remounted ambulances for the Brownsville Fire Department in the amount of $400,000 as budgeted in the fiscal year 2021 Capital Improvement Program, Brownsville Fire Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item in front of you here is for the remounting of 2 ambulances that we currently have. We will be remounting those patient compartments onto a new chassis. Over the 5 years, this is part of a 5-year capital improvement program that money has been budgeted for, with the replacement of 2 this year, 1 next year, 2 in 2023, 3 in 2024, and 1 in 2025. We're remounting and upgrading and refurbishing all the components of this, including all the warranties. And also one of the major upgrades, for example, is the installation of a UV air and surface disinfecting system in the ambulances to kind of combat some of the COVID latest responses and future responses. So with this, I request your approval to go forward with this remounting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 4, consideration and action to award contract for documents management solution and accounts payable automation, Laserfish and Abby software, SaaS, including implementation, migration, and training services to MCCI LLC in the amount of $267,465.12 as budgeted, Enterprise Applications Department.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Commission. Gail Brisiak here from the Enterprise Applications Department. As stated, this item is for the purchase of a document management solution, namely Laserfish, and an accounts payable automation solution called Abby, both from the vendor MCCI. And about the projects, both projects are key elements of the Strategic Automation Plan, which is a citywide initiative to accelerate automation throughout the city of Brownsville. The 2 projects align with the commission pillar of infrastructure and are on the fiscal year 2021 Enterprise Applications Work Plan. Why the change? Well, currently we have 3 on-premise document storage servers and software. The two of them are at end of life and no longer supported, and we currently do not have an automated accounts payable solution in place at the city at this time. Secondly, we also need to address both records management audit findings from July 2020 and a portion of the comprehensive fiscal year 20 annual financial report findings. And lastly, our cloud adoption strategy. It really suggests we need a robust cloud-based system that automates complex workflows and integrates with other software systems such as our ERP, Tyler Technologies system. And now I will turn over the presentation to Brad Eller, who's virtual. He's our technology partner from True North CG.
Mayor Mendez, Commission, thank you for the time. So just wanted to give you a few key facts about this particular project. So the project initially started as a pilot project for the city secretaries to replace an aging document management system for the births and death records. As part of that audit that was done in July of 2020, it was found that there were actually issues with record management across the city. So part of that goal was when that was reviewed, it was reviewed to then look at an enterprise-wide or city-wide deployment for this type of solution rather than just looking at a single department implementation. In addition to that, there was also a financial audit that was done in September of 2020. And part of that audit found that the account payable timelines were extremely long, in some cases taking 3 or 4 months for vendors to be paid. Because of this increased amount of time, it obviously can lead to increased costs, potentially interest or late charges or things like that. And so it was recommended as part of that audit to look at and potentially use an automation solution to speed up and the turnaround times with the accounts payable. The solution as a whole is looked at to be a cloud-based solution. The cloud-based solution would be in place and would be used to help provide a more robust solution that is available and accessible not just by those members in the city, within the city buildings, but also those who are remote more easily. It will be a more secure solution for the city to use overall. And lastly, the two solutions that are being presented today, Laserfiche and Abby, both work together hand in hand to create workflows and improve the processes, timelines, and compliance for the particular items that they are being worked on. Next slide, please. So the first part of that solution is Laserfiche. And again, as part of that audit that was mentioned from July of 2020, one of the items that was mentioned was that there needs to be a process to digitize all the records within the city. The first step in digitizing those records within the city and to manage those records is to have a solution in which those records can be stored. Laserfiche is the recommended solution that is being recommended today for that solution, and is a solution that is used by a number of other cities in the Valley and surrounding areas. Laserfiche can also be utilized while moving that same solution both from an on-prem, which is what the city has today, to a cloud-based solution to allow increased storage and less management for the city staff itself. It still will have the security elements that are required to be in compliance with those items within the state statutes. In addition to that, you will also have the ability to automate and set up the document storage for and be able to control the retention schedules and things like that within Laserfiche. So you will be keeping those items to be in compliance with, again, the statutes for how long you need to keep records, how you need to manage records. And this will be the first step in digitizing those records within the city that are currently all analog or in paper form. Next slide, please. The Abby solution for the accounts payable automation. So one of the important elements of what will be stored in the document repository will be the invoices. The invoices being stored in the repository or Laserfiche will allow the solution Abby to then pull from those from that document storage to automate the accounts payable solution. So when the paper invoices come in, as an example, those paper invoices come in, they're scanned in, they automatically go into an inbox. From that inbox, Abby then recognizes that a new file is in there. The algorithm looks at it, automatically reads the file, and recognizes where it needs to be processed and who it needs to be sent to for approval. Once that approval is granted, then it can go to accounts payable to be paid. Oftentimes, this solution is improving the timeline for payments. In this case, as mentioned in the audit report, from 3 or 4 months, you should see that move down to within the acceptable time periods for when those invoices are due and to be paid. Next slide, please. So the timeline for this, for the project, it initially began, as mentioned, as a demo in May of 2020 for the city secretary team and also the management analyst division. The intent, again, was to have a small pilot project. In July of 2020, the project was put on hold until a new secretary began in that role. In July of 2020, we also had the records management audit. And after reviewing the records management audit, we moved and began to search for, in October of 2020, we obtained the funding for fiscal year 2021 for the initial pilot project. And again, that pilot was based on a smaller implementation. In March of 2021, it was decided to look for an enterprise-wide solution to be strategic about that implementation and to be a leader in the region for implementing the automation that will be provided by both Laserfiche and the Abby implementations. In April of 2021, there was another demo that was done for the enterprise members, not just city secretaries, but other members for both Laserfiche and for the AP automation project together. And MCCI was selected as a vendor from the DIR co-op. In May of 2021, contracts negotiation began and price negotiations began with MCCI. That pricing was initially based on the DIR pricing. After reviewing the pricing that was received, we negotiated with MCCI a $45,000 reduction from that initial proposal that was given. And on June 15th today, 2021, we are here requesting commission approval for $267,465.12. And then the project would kick off in July of 2020 and would be implemented over the fiscal years 2021 and 2022, estimated to be approximately 4 or 5 months for the total implementation. And in fiscal year 2022, the project would be complete. Next slide. And that concludes the presentation. If there are any questions.
Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion on the item.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, consideration and action to approve cooperative purchase of 14 vehicles from Caldwell Country Chevrolet LLC, contract number 601-19, and Silsby Ford Goodbye 21-8F000 in the amount of $417,000 as budgeted, Internal Services Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Roxana Moreno. I am the Internal Service Director, and I'm here to present this agenda item for the procurement of 14 new vehicles. In fiscal year, just a little bit of history, in fiscal year 2020, the Internal Service Department implemented a light fleet replacement program, which consisted of a combination of lease and purchase vehicles. By doing so, we standardized the replacement schedule, which was calculated by the cost and life expectancy of the asset. Since then, since the implementation, we have saved approximately $80,000. Can you change the slide, please? Next slide. On this, this is the schedule that we have in place for the next 10 years. Since year one, like I said, we did make some cost savings. We're in the process of planning year 2 and 3, which is going to be purchased vehicles. And in year 2, we have 7 vehicles that we were planning on purchasing. The remainder 6 will find the better vehicles that we can exchange for the poor operational ones and replace those. By looking at the pricing, when we began looking to year 2, we found that we should be considering procuring year 3 at the same time, because we're trying to lock in the pricing and secure the order, mainly for the scarcity of the inventory that's out there currently. As you can, the vehicle market conditions is deteriorating and there's a lot of price inflation. So at this time, next slide, please. So we're proposing that we proceed with year 2 and 3 and procuring the 14 vehicles. Next slide. Okay, right here it'll show you that the amount that we was allotted for year 2 was $173,500 for 7 vehicles, and the cost is $209,000. I'm sorry, I can't see that far. $209,073. And then for year 2, we're looking at the current cost at $207,927,000. The amount that was allotted is not enough to cover both years. It'll be over by $60,000. This is something that will be paid through a capital outlay program for the light fleet. Any questions? We would like to purchase all 14 now.
Since you're purchasing them all now, does that mean that you're moving money from other budgets to this one? How are you getting the funding for it?
It'll be a combination of what is, well, again, the purchase won't actually, payment won't actually be due until after the delivery of the vehicles, which will fall into next fiscal year. So we'll be using both. We're just expediting process now to get our order in, because it's not, the payment is not upon delivery.
Okay. Thanks.
The motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, consideration and action to award the contract for the construction for Texas Water Development Project ID number 40158-21, SCADA monitoring and control stations located through the city's Resaca and drainage system to assist the city of Brownsville with stormwater controls and data collection. This proposal is between Hanson Professional Services Incorporated and the City of Brownsville. The agreement is an independent contract agreement for an on-call term contract for engineering, surveying, street drainage improvements, and miscellaneous service projects for the City of Brownsville. RFQ number QES-40-0620 in the amount of $449,600, Engineering and Public Works Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. This project, as you all may or may not know, we've been working with Texas Water Development Board now for several years on funding for various projects for drainage improvements. In 2019, we were awarded 8 SCADA control areas that Hanson and USGS assisted us in the design and implementation for Brownsville. This particular project is a continuation of that project. We sought out funding for 2021 and we were selected as one of the projects by Texas Water Development Board in February for funding and are now proceeding with procuring the design services for 21 additional SCADA monitoring and control stations located throughout the city of Brownsville. If we can go to the next slide, please. These particular stations will provide data so that we can analyze it in conjunction with USGS. USGS will be partnering with us in monitoring and maintaining and analyzing the data so that we can better understand the drainage system within our city. Aside from that, in 13 of these locations, we will be doing weir improvements or weir additions. We will be placing different control structures and improving the infrastructure of drainage in these areas. In particular, I'll leave the map up, but it's an El Valle Pond weir, Kohl's and Home Depot. We have a weir in that area there that we'll be improving. In Santander, both of the weirs on the north and south side. On Frankfurt Street by El Valle Grande, on the Sunrise weir. In Cameron Park, we have a weir that we'll be updating. Meadowbrook, Hidden Acres, Fairfields, Paredes Line Road, Ballinger Pond, and Moose Lake weir. All of these will receive improvements of infrastructure and SCADA. At this time, this is for the design services, okay? We have 8 additional locations that will be receiving SCADA improvements. And basically what this is, the SCADA component will help us monitor the amount of water that flows through the areas, the level of the water, so that we can make important decisions like opening and closing certain valves or turning on pumps to assist flooding during the rain events or pre-storm. In the following locations is where we're going to be designing the SCADA infrastructure. At Cameron County Drainage District number 1, off of Indiana, on Old Port Isabel Road for Resaca de la Guerra, and on Eagle Drive by Hannah High School, off Impala on the North Main Drain, off Oklahoma on the North Main Drain as well, and off Boca Chica on Old Main Drain number 2, on Rustic Manor, and the tributary of Dogberry for the North Main Drain that's near the outfall. If we can go to the next slide. Actually, to the end, we've already gone over the stations. And this particular project, like I said, includes surveying, engineering design services, construction engineering, and project management. It's in the amount of $449,600, and it will be funded through the Texas Water Development Board loan program that will be coming to you shortly for approval. They do require that we have signed and executed contracts before they can proceed with funding the projects. We're recommending approval on this project. If you have any question, I'll be more than glad to answer them at this time.
I will move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Happy to second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I just had one question, Dodo. I couldn't tell if this was budgeted. Typically, most items state whether or not they're budgeted, but this one didn't. So I assume it probably wasn't. I mean, obviously it's justifiable, but just asking.
This contract is subject to funding. In order for us to proceed with funding, we need to have a contract in place. So once we have the contract in place, Texas Water Development Board will fund this project.
Okay, great.
And we'll be coming back to, I believe, in the next July meeting for that, if everything goes according to schedule.
Okay, thanks. We did have a motion and a second. Was there any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item 7, consideration and action to award the contract for the design for Texas Water Development Board project ID number 40025. Brownsville to Port Isabel HUC-10 Watershed Study 40063. Impala Drain Upstream Ditch Improvements and 40158 SCADA and other improvements to Resaca, ponds, and ditches. This proposal is between HAF and Associates and the City of Brownsville. The agreement is an independent contract agreement for an on-call term contract for engineering, surveying, street drainage improvements, and miscellaneous service projects for the City of Brownsville, RFQ number QES-40-0620 in the amount of $1,350,000, Engineering and Public Works Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Once again, we're here to get with another Texas Water Development Board item. One thing I do want to clarify on the agenda item description, we have the correct descriptions, but the amounts for the different projects were not laid out. So I'd like to clarify the amount of the contract. 1.35 million is the fee for project ID 425, which is the Brownsville to Port Isabel HUC-10 watershed study, which I'll go over shortly. The second component or subgroup to this project is for $791,300, which is the fee for the Impala Drain Ditch Upstream Ditch Improvements. And the third component is for the SCADA project as well that we discussed, but this particular fee is $30,000, and this is for the fee of environmental clearances and engineering report for the SCADA and other improvements in Resaca and pond ditches. So the total amount of this contract would be $2,171,300. With that, I've moved to the next slide to go over each component of this project. The first component of this project is the flood study for the HUC-10 area. If you want to move to the next slide, please, so that you all can see the map and I can elaborate on what area it encompasses. This encompasses various areas outside of Brownsville that we don't necessarily oversee the drainage, but in order to be able to apply for Texas Water Development Board funding, we've partnered with various municipalities like Rancho Viejo, Los Fresnos, and Cameron County Drainage District number 1. Brownsville PUB is also a partner in this project. We required their support. We also have La Paloma, Olmito, and Laguna Heights. And in order to qualify for funding, we have to include the entire HUC 10 area. And with this watershed study, will provide a drainage, a regional approach to cataloging flood-prone areas and flood control recommendations. This master plan will include flood mitigation recommendations, benefit and cost analysis, phasing plans, and modeling data for this entire area. And the estimated time of completion for this project is 17 months. So we're looking for a completion date, depending on when funding is awarded, of about December of 2022. You can see the watersheds that are outlined. We can go back one slide, please. That outlines the watersheds that will be affected within the Brownsville area, which is basically every watershed or drainage area that's in Brownsville. Town Resaca, Resaca de la Guerra, Resaca del Rancho Viejo, North Main Drain, and the areas that are maintained by Cameron County Drainage District number 1. So that covers the scope for the first subcomponent. If we go to the next slide, we'll get into project B. This particular project is for the Impala Drain Upstream Ditch Improvements. As you all know, we are currently working on the Impala Pump improvements. So this particular component, we can go to the next slide, will help increase the flow of water that goes to the Impala pumps. We're proposing to improve the drainage ditches upstream of the Impala pump station. These ditches flow from Los Tomates Banco, or the portion near the Brownsville PUB South Water Wastewater Treatment Plant of Town Resaca to Impala Pump Station, and from Cameron County Drainage District number 1, North Main Drain Canal, from the Impala Pump Station along the North Main Drain to relieve the lateral that runs into the southmost area. These improvements include ditch cleaning, widening, reshaping, and lining with riprap to improve the hydraulic capabilities. This project also includes reconstruction of the pump station sump area associated with the pumps that will be installing. The estimated time for this project as well is 16 to 17 months, estimated completion date of December of 2022. If we can go to the next slide. This is a smaller component of the SCADA project, and this covers the environmental component. It was a lot easier to keep all the environmental components under one engineering firm so that we could be a little bit quicker in responding to Texas Water Development Board, since these timelines on these projects are very stringent. Our recommendation for all these 3 sub-projects is for approval in the amount of $2,171,300. And very similar to the previous project, the funding for this project will be allocated at hopefully at the next commission meeting once we receive the notice to proceed from Texas Water Development Board for the funding. At this time, if you all have any questions.
The issue that I have, Dodo, and council, if you can help me here, is this this agenda shows only for $1,350,000, not the full amount that Dodo presented. So are we only able then to approve the $1,350,000 and not the rest?
Mayor, this item was discussed by management with me, Your Honor. Mayor, and
not yet.
Yeah, no, I apologize. But I told them that if we have a floor amendment, this item could be properly considered and voted on. So it all depends on the commission. If anyone would like to make a floor amendment to the amount, just to reflect the correct items and the correct figures. And my understanding as well is that your packet had all the correct figures as well. So that would be one way to fix this. If not, we can always pass it and correct it and present it again next meeting.
I just want to make sure we do it the right way. I mean, obviously it's a project with different sub projects. So I just want to make sure we do it right. However that is, if your recommendation is to have a floor amendment, then I would entertain that from any of the commissioners.
I will make a motion to approve, including A floor amendment to reflect the pricing indicated. Is that enough, Renee?
Yes, it is, Commissioner.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion with a floor amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion.
Can I ask a question though?
Yes, just give me 1 second, Commissioner. Let me just get that out. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thanks. So Dodo, let me just make sure that I understood. The previous one about the SCADA, the previous agenda item about the SCADA, that was all contemplated by the $7 million loan from the Texas Water Development Board, correct? But what about this item?
No, both of these items are part of the new funding for 2021 that we were granted the approval in February of this year. That's what these two items are funded with. In order to obtain the funding, which we're scheduled to take to commission in July, we were required to have contracts in place with our engineers, which was a little bit different than the previous loan program from 2019. In 2019, we were awarded the money and then went to the commission for engineering contracts. These two items are not with 2019 funding, it's with funding from 2021.
So the amount that we're talking about right now, citizens that involved other municipalities, this is just the city of Brownsville's contribution or responsibility?
For the 1.35 million, we applied in partnership with the other municipalities, and that is the total for the project. The city is the lead on that particular project.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad we got more money.
Yes.
Definitely. All right, we had a motion and a second. Is there any other questions or discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dora.
Thank you all.
Okay, our next item is adjournment.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great night, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.
There being no further business to come before the city commission, upon duly made motion, the meeting has adjourned at 7:09 p.m.